My in-laws expected me to pay for their vacation because we're rich, so I booked them the exact trip they could actually afford. It started 6 months ago when my husband Wesley's parents announced at Sunday dinner that they'd always dreamed of going to Hawaii for their 35th anniversary. They looked directly at us while saying it. Wesley owns a successful dental practice and I'm a software engineer. We're comfortable, but we're not lighting cigars with $100 bills. That sounds wonderful, I said, smiling. You'll have to show us pictures when you get back. My mother-in-law's face fell. Well, we were hoping you two could treat us, she said, as a thank you for everything we've done. Wesley shifted uncomfortably. His parents had helped with his student loans 15 years ago. They brought it up at every holiday like they'd funded a small nation. Mom, that's a lot of money. We raised you, she cut in. The least you could do is show some appreciation. For months, they dropped hints, sent links to 5-star resorts, mentioned how their friends' children paid for their trips. When we didn't bite, the comments got sharper. Some people forget where they came from. Must be nice to hoard your money while your parents suffer. At Thanksgiving, my father-in-law pulled me aside. You know, if Wesley married someone more generous, we'd probably be in Maui right now. Something in me snapped. That night, I spent 3 hours researching flights and hotels. I created a detailed itinerary. Then I called them. We've decided to book your anniversary trip, I announced. The squeals of delight made my teeth hurt. Oh, honey, we knew you'd come around. When are we leaving? Next month. I'll email you the confirmation. I sent everything over. They called back within minutes. There must be a mistake, my mother-in-law said, her voice tight. This says we're flying to Cleveland. That's right. Cleveland? We wanted Hawaii. Hawaii costs $8,000, I explained calmly. But you only contributed $2,400 to Wesley's loans. With 15 years of interest at a generous rate, you've earned exactly $847. That's a weekend in Cleveland with a hotel near the airport and tickets to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Silence. You're being ridiculous. Am I? Because you said we should pay for what you're owed. So I calculated it. My father-in-law got on the line. This is disrespectful. We're family. Then maybe you should have treated us like family instead of an ATM. They showed up at our house the next day. My mother-in-law was crying. My father-in-law demanded I cancel Cleveland and book Hawaii properly. The reservations are non-refundable, I said. That's when Wesley's sister Ramona arrived, suitcases in hand. I heard you're sending Mom and Dad on a budget trip, she said, smirking. So I told them about the villa. My stomach dropped. What villa? The one you and Wesley rented in Turks and Caicos last year. The one that cost $12,000 for a week. Wesley's face went white. We'd kept that trip private specifically to avoid this. His mother's tears dried instantly. You spent $12,000 on yourselves but won't give us Hawaii? Before I could respond, Ramona pulled out her phone. I've already posted about it in the family group chat. Everyone knows now. Aunt Cordelia is particularly disappointed. My phone started buzzing with notifications. Dozens of family members weighing in, some defending us. Most didn't. That night, someone leaked our address to a local Facebook group my mother-in-law runs. By morning, we had people commenting on our house, our cars, calling us selfish and entitled. Wesley's practice started getting negative reviews from accounts that looked suspiciously like his relatives. We need to fix this, Wesley said, exhausted. But here's what he didn't know. What nobody knew. I'd been documenting everything. Every guilt trip, every demand, every manipulative comment. And I'd just received a call from a producer who'd seen the Facebook drama. They wanted our story for their show about family financial abuse. The contract was sitting on my desk when Wesley's parents showed up with a lawyer, demanding we pay for emotional distress. The lawyer's name was printed on his business card in gold embossed letters. Gerald Hutchins, Esquire. He wore a suit that probably cost more than the Cleveland trip. My clients have suffered significant emotional damage, he said, settling into our living room like he owned it. The public humiliation alone? Public humiliation? I interrupted. You mean the Facebook posts your clients orchestrated? Gerald's smile didn't reach his eyes. My clients simply shared their hurt with their community. What you did was calculated cruelty. My mother-in-law dabbed at dry eyes with a tissue. We only wanted to spend time with our son, to make memories before we're gone. You're 58, I said flatly. Heart disease runs in the family, my father-in-law added quickly. Wesley sat frozen beside me. He'd been like this since the Facebook group exploded, torn between the family he was raised in and the family he'd chosen. Gerald pulled out a folder. We're prepared to settle this quietly. $50,000 should cover the emotional distress and reputational damage. We'll also require a public apology and, of course, the Hawaii trip. I laughed. Actually laughed. You can't be serious. We're very serious, my father-in-law said. And if you don't agree, we'll sue for everything you have. That's when I pulled out my own folder. Before you do that, you should probably look at these. I spread the documents across the coffee table. 15 years of receipts. Every holiday where they'd mentioned the student loans. Every guilt trip documented with dates and times. Text messages, emails, voice recordings. What is this? Gerald asked, his confidence wavering. Evidence, I said, of a pattern of financial coercion and emotional manipulation spanning over a decade. I pulled out my phone and played a recording from Thanksgiving. My father-in-law's voice filled the room. If Wesley married someone more generous, we'd probably be in Maui right now. My mother-in-law's face went pale. You recorded us? In our own home, I confirmed, which is perfectly legal in this state. One-party consent. I handed Gerald another document. This is a cease and desist letter from my attorney. Your clients have engaged in defamation, harassment, and cyberstalking. The negative reviews on Wesley's practice? All from fake accounts traceable to their IP address. Gerald flipped through the pages, his expression darkening. We also have screenshots of the Facebook group, I continued, where your clients encourage their friends to harass us. That's conspiracy to cyberstalk, a Class 4 felony in this state. The room went silent. You're bluffing, my father-in-law said, but his voice shook. Am I? I pulled out another paper. This is the contract from the production company. They're paying us $75,000 to tell our story on national television about family financial abuse. They're particularly interested in the part where you used a $2,400 loan to manipulate your son for 15 years. My mother-in-law stood up so fast she knocked over her purse. You wouldn't dare. Try me. Wesley finally spoke. Mom, Dad, you need to leave. His mother turned to him, tears now genuine. Wesley, honey, she's poisoning you against us. No, he said quietly. She's protecting us. Like I should have done years ago. He stood, his hands shaking but his voice steady. You've held that loan over my head since I was 23. Every birthday, every Christmas, every time we had good news, you found a way to remind me, to make me feel guilty for being successful. We sacrificed for you, his father protested. You made an investment in your son's future, Wesley corrected. Then you charged interest on love that should have been free. Gerald gathered his papers. My clients will be in touch. No, they won't, I said. Because if they contact us again, we're filing a restraining order, and we're calling the production company, and we're pressing charges for the defamation campaign. After they left, Wesley collapsed onto the couch. Did that really just happen? I sat beside him, my adrenaline crashing. Yeah, the TV show, he said slowly. Is that real? I pulled up the email on my phone. He read it twice. They want to film next week. Only if you're okay with it, I said. But Wesley, this isn't just about us anymore. The Facebook group has 300 members. Half of them are sharing similar stories about their own families, about being treated like ATMs, about guilt and manipulation. He rubbed his face. My whole life I thought it was normal, that all parents did this. It's not normal, I said gently, and you deserved better. We sat in silence for a long time. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You're going to regret this. Then another. Ungrateful bitch. Another. Hope you're happy destroying a family. I showed Wesley. His jaw tightened. They're using their friends to harass you. Probably, I said. But they're also creating more evidence. I screenshot each message, documenting the phone numbers. Over the next 3 days, we received 47 harassing texts and emails. Someone egged our house. Someone else left a dead rat in our mailbox. But we also received something else. Messages from people in the Facebook group who'd been bullied into silence by my in-laws. A woman named Patricia wrote, Your mother-in-law did the same thing to me when I married into this family 20 years ago. She made my life hell until we moved across the country. Thank you for standing up to her. Another message from Denise. I'm Wesley's cousin. My mom has been financially abused by this family for decades. Can we talk? By the end of the week, 7 family members had reached out with their own stories of manipulation and abuse. The production company loved it. This isn't just a story about one couple, the producer Lydia explained over video call. This is about systemic family dysfunction, generational patterns of control. She wanted to interview all of us, create a documentary-style episode. We'll protect everyone's anonymity if needed, she assured us. But the more voices we have, the more powerful the story. Wesley's cousin Denise was the first to agree. She'd been forced to drop out of college because her mother, Wesley's aunt, had taken out credit cards in her name to fund a family emergency that turned out to be a vacation home. Denise spent years paying off debt she didn't create. Then Patricia came forward. My mother-in-law had spread vicious rumors about her, claiming she was after the family money. Patricia lost friends, her marriage nearly fell apart, and she developed anxiety so severe she needed medication. Each story was worse than the last. But my in-laws weren't done. 4 days before filming, Wesley received a call from his practice manager. We have a problem, she said. Health inspection showed up unannounced. Said there were complaints about sterilization protocols. Wesley went pale. That's impossible. We just passed our annual inspection. I know, she said. This feels targeted. It was. The complaint had been filed anonymously, but the details were too specific, too intimate. Someone who knew the layout of the practice. Someone who'd been there before. Ramona. Wesley's sister had been to his practice dozens of times. She'd taken photos during the open house, posted them on social media with proud captions about her brother, the dentist. Now she was using that knowledge to destroy him. The health inspector found nothing wrong, but the investigation would be on public record. It would raise questions, scare away potential patients. They're trying to ruin us, Wesley said that night. No, I corrected. They're trying to scare us into backing down, but I was scared. Not for us, but for what would happen when the episode aired. What lengths would his family go to? I called Lydia. We might need security during filming. She didn't even hesitate. Already arranged. We've dealt with volatile families before. The day of filming arrived. Our house was transformed into a temporary studio. Cameras everywhere. Lighting equipment. Sound people with fuzzy microphones on poles. Wesley and I sat on our couch. Makeup artists touching up our faces. Last chance to back out, I whispered. He squeezed my hand. We're doing this. Lydia started with the basics. How we met. Our careers. When the loan repayment started becoming a weapon. Then she asked Wesley to talk about his childhood. He'd been rehearsing this part for days, but hearing him say it out loud broke my heart. I was never allowed to fail, he said. Every grade, every achievement, every decision was scrutinized. If I didn't perform, I was told I was wasting their sacrifice, that I owed them success. Did they specify what you owed them? Lydia asked. Not directly. It was always implied. Graduate top of your class. Get into the best dental school. Open a successful practice. Marry well. Have children who would make them proud. Did you feel like their son or their investment? Wesley's voice cracked. Both. Neither. I don't know. During a break, Wesley's cousin Denise arrived. She'd brought documents, credit card statements showing her mother's charges, loan paperwork with forged signatures, a paper trail of financial abuse spanning 12 years. I've never told anyone this, Denise said on camera. My mother stole my identity when I was 19, ruined my credit. When I confronted her, the family rallied around her, said I was being dramatic. That family takes care of family. Did you go to the police? Lydia asked. I tried, but she's my mother. Everyone made me feel guilty for even considering it. So I just paid off the debt and moved away. Patricia told her story next, how my mother-in-law had systematically isolated her from the family, spread lies about infidelity and gold digging. She convinced my husband that I married him for money, Patricia said, her voice steady but sad. We almost divorced over it. It took years of therapy to rebuild our marriage. Why did she target you? Lydia asked. Because I asked questions about why the family always needed money, about where the loans were actually going. Nobody in this family is allowed to question the matriarch. As the day wore on, a picture emerged. My mother-in-law wasn't just controlling. She was running something close to a family pyramid scheme. Money flowed up to her and my father-in-law, while those at the bottom were bled dry through guilt, obligation, and manipulation. The student loan they'd given Wesley, they'd taken it from Denise's college fund without telling her. The medical emergency that required Patricia's husband to take out a second mortgage, a lie to fund their kitchen remodel. Every financial crisis was manufactured. Every urgent need was exaggerated. And anyone who questioned it was branded ungrateful and excommunicated. We filmed for 12 hours. By the end, I was exhausted, but also strangely relieved. These weren't just our secrets anymore. They were documented, witnessed, real. Lydia thanked us all. This is going to be our most powerful episode, she said. You're helping people understand they're not alone. That night, Wesley and I lay in bed, too wired to sleep. What happens now? He asked. They'll edit the footage, add context, interview experts about financial abuse. Then it airs in 3 weeks. 3 weeks, he repeated. And then everyone will know. Everyone will know the truth, I corrected. But I was wrong. We wouldn't have to wait 3 weeks. The next morning, Ramona posted on Facebook, my brother and his wife are filming a TV show to slander our family. They're being paid to lie about people who loved and supported them. Please share this so everyone knows what kind of people they really are. The post went viral in our community. By noon, we had reporters at our door. By evening, Wesley's practice phone was ringing nonstop with people demanding answers. My mother-in-law gave an interview to the local news, tears streaming down her face. My son has been turned against me, she sobbed. All I ever did was love him, and now he's accusing me of terrible things for money and attention. The reporter looked sympathetic. What about the recordings his wife made? Taken out of context, my father-in-law interjected. Every family has disagreements, but to secretly record your own family? That's a betrayal. They painted us as villains, greedy, manipulative, willing to destroy family bonds for fame. The backlash was immediate. Wesley's practice got review bombed again. Someone spray-painted family destroyer on our garage door. I received death threats. But something else happened too. The Facebook group my mother-in-law ran started turning against her. People who'd known her for years began asking questions, pointing out inconsistencies in her story. One woman wrote, "Wait, didn't you tell me last year that Wesley never paid back your loan? Now you're saying he did, but it wasn't enough?" Another, "I've known you for 10 years. Every single year you've had a different family emergency that needed money. How many emergencies can one family have?" The cracks were showing. Then Patricia dropped a bomb. She posted in the group, her account no longer anonymous. "Linda, you told everyone I was a gold digger who trapped your nephew. But I have the messages you sent me, the threats, the times you told me to leave the family or face consequences. Should I share those?" My mother-in-law scrambled to delete the post. But it was too late. Screenshots spread across the group. More people came forward, each with their own story of manipulation, control, and financial abuse. The local news reporter who'd interviewed my in-laws called us. "I'd like to do a follow-up," she said. After speaking with more people, "I think there's a bigger story here." We declined. The documentary would speak for itself. But Lydia had a different idea. "We're moving up the air date," she said. "The publicity is actually working in our favor. People are talking about financial abuse in families. We want to strike while the conversation is hot." The episode was scheduled to air in 1 week. That week was the longest of my life. We hired security after someone threw a brick through our window. Wesley took a leave of absence from his practice. We barely left the house. But we also received support. Hundreds of messages from people sharing their own experiences with toxic family dynamics. Therapists offering free counseling. Lawyers volunteering to help us file charges. The night before the episode aired, Wesley's phone rang. His mother. He almost didn't answer. But something made him pick up. "Wesley," she said, her voice small. "Please don't do this." "Don't do what?" he asked. "Tell the truth? You're going to destroy this family." "No, Mom, you did that. Years ago. I'm just finally admitting it." "I'm your mother," she whispered. "Doesn't that mean anything?" Wesley looked at me. I nodded. "It means everything," he said. "That's why this hurts so much. Because I wanted you to just love me. Without conditions. Without debts. But you turned my whole life into a transaction." She started, but he continued. "Do you even know why I became a dentist? It wasn't because I loved teeth. It was because you told me doctors make money, and you needed me to make money so I could pay you back. I built my entire life around your expectations. And it was never enough." Silence on the line. "I'm sorry," she finally said. "I didn't realize." "Yes, you did. You just didn't care. Because you needed to be the center of everything. The matriarch. The one everyone owed." "Wesley, I'm done, Mom. After tomorrow, the whole world will know what you are. And maybe then you'll understand what you've taken from all of us." He hung up. That night, neither of us slept. We lay in the dark, holding hands, waiting for morning. The The episode premiered at 8 p.m. We watched it in our living room, the curtains drawn, doors locked. Seeing our story unfold on screen was surreal. They'd done it justice, shown the pattern, the manipulation, the way love had been weaponized across generations. But it was the expert commentary that hit hardest. Dr. Chen, a psychologist specializing in family systems, explained, "Financial abuse within families is particularly insidious because it's wrapped in the language of love and obligation. The abuser convinces the victim that they're not being abused at all. They're just being a good son, a dutiful daughter, paying back what they owe." Another expert, a lawyer, discussed the legal gray areas. Most financial abuse within families isn't illegal. It's coercion, manipulation, emotional blackmail. But it's nearly impossible to prosecute, which is why victims often feel trapped. Then came the interviews. Wesley, me, Denise, Patricia, 5 other family members we hadn't met before the filming. All of us saying the same thing in different ways. We thought it was normal. We thought we were the problem. We thought we owed them everything. The episode ended with Wesley speaking directly to the camera. "If you're watching this and recognizing your own family, I want you to know, you don't owe them your entire life. Gratitude is wonderful, but it shouldn't cost you your mental health, your financial security, or your sense of self. Love shouldn't come with interest." The screen faded to black. My phone exploded. Text messages, emails, social media notifications. Thousands of them. Most were supportive. People thanking us for sharing, for validating their experiences, for giving them permission to set boundaries. But some were vicious, calling us ungrateful, accusing us of destroying the sacred bond between parents and children, saying we deserved whatever happened next. Those messages came mostly from my in-laws' generation, people who believed children owed their parents everything, that questioning your elders was disrespectful, that family loyalty meant accepting abuse with a smile. But the younger generation? They understood. They'd lived it too. Within 24 hours, the hashtag financial family abuse was trending. People shared their stories. Support groups formed. Therapists reported a surge in calls from adult children seeking help setting boundaries. Our episode had touched something raw, something millions of people had been too ashamed to name. 3 days after the episode aired, my mother-in-law's Facebook group was shut down. Too many people had reported it for harassment. 5 days later, Wesley's practice started receiving apologetic reviews, people admitting they'd been manipulated into leaving negative feedback. 1 week later, my father-in-law called. "We need to talk," he said, face to face. We met in a neutral location, a coffee shop downtown. They looked smaller somehow, older. My mother-in-law's makeup couldn't hide the dark circles under her eyes. "We've been asked to resign from our positions at the church," she said quietly. "Too much negative attention." My father-in-law stared at his coffee. "I lost 2 clients. Said they couldn't work with someone who treats family that way." Neither spoke the words. "I'm sorry." Instead, my mother-in-law said, "We didn't think it would go this far." "That's not an apology," I pointed out. "What do you want from us?" she snapped, a flash of her old self returning. "We're being destroyed. Isn't that enough?" "No," Wesley said firmly, "because you still don't understand what you did wrong. We helped you," his father insisted. "We gave you money when you needed it. You gave me $2,400 15 years ago," Wesley said, "and you've extracted easily $50,000 in guilt payments since then. Expensive birthday gifts you chose, holiday meals where we had to pick up the entire tab, the new furniture you needed that somehow became our responsibility. Every single time, you reminded me about that loan, made me feel like I could never repay what I owed. We raised you," his mother said desperately, "for 18 years. That was your choice." I cut in. "You chose to have a child. He didn't ask to be born. He doesn't owe you his entire adult life because you did the bare minimum of keeping him alive." My mother-in-law's face went red. "The bare minimum? I sacrificed everything for him." "Then you made bad financial decisions," I said bluntly. "Kids aren't retirement plans. They're not investments you cash in later. They're human beings who deserve to be loved without conditions." We sat in tense silence. Finally, my father-in-law spoke. "What do you want? For us to disappear? To never see our son again?" Wesley exhaled slowly. "I want you to go to therapy. Real therapy. Not the religious counseling where they tell you you're right and I'm rebellious. Actual therapy with someone who specializes in family systems and financial abuse." His mother laughed bitterly. "You want us to admit we're abusers? I want you to understand why 7 members of this family came forward with similar stories," Wesley said. "Why Patricia and Denise and the others all experienced the same patterns. This isn't about me being ungrateful. This is about a system you created where everyone owes you, and you owe nobody." "And if we refuse?" his father asked. "Then we're done," Wesley said simply. "No contact. You won't meet your future grandchildren. You won't be part of our lives. Because I can't expose my family to the same manipulation I grew up with." His mother's eyes filled with tears. "You'd really do that? Cut us off completely?" "In a heartbeat," Wesley said. "Because I finally understand that I don't owe you my pain, or my peace, or my future." We left them sitting there, stunned, angry, but maybe finally thinking. 2 weeks later, my mother-in-law called. "We found a therapist," she said stiffly. "We start next month." "Good," Wesley said. "Don't expect miracles," she warned. "We still think you're being dramatic." "Noted," he replied, and hung up. It wasn't the emotional reunion some people hoped for, but it was a start. Over the next 6 months, things slowly shifted. My in-laws attended therapy weekly. At first, according to my mother-in-law's sister who stayed in touch, they spent most sessions defending themselves. But their therapist apparently didn't let them off easy. She made them list every time they'd asked family members for money, Wesley's aunt told us. When they added it up, it was over $200,000 across 15 years, from various relatives. They honestly didn't realize. Ramona, on the other hand, doubled down. She started her own blog about the real story of our family, positioned herself as the truth teller against our lies. It got modest attention. A few hundred followers who bought into her narrative. But then Denise published her own post. Detailed timeline, documents, screenshots. The credit card statements showing Ramona had known about the identity theft and helped hide it. Ramona's blog went silent after that. Meanwhile, the documentary episode had won awards, sparked conversations, led to actual legislation in 2 states about financial exploitation of adult children by their parents. Lydia called with news. We want to do a follow-up episode, 1 year later. See how everyone's doing. We agreed. So did Denise and Patricia and the others. The follow-up filmed on what would have been my in-laws' 36th anniversary, the one they'd wanted to spend in Hawaii. Instead, they were in therapy, learning to have relationships without manipulation, slowly, painfully, attempting to rebuild trust with the family members they'd harmed. It wasn't perfect. My mother-in-law still made passive-aggressive comments. My father-in-law still didn't fully grasp what he'd done wrong, but they were trying, which was more than we'd expected. The second episode aired with updates from everyone. Denise had rebuilt her credit and was back in school. Patricia's marriage was stronger than ever. The other family members had set firm boundaries and were slowly healing. And Wesley? He'd started a support group at his practice. Free monthly meetings for people dealing with financial abuse from family members. It's cathartic, he told the camera, knowing I'm not alone, that other people understand. I started speaking at conferences about recognizing and escaping family financial abuse, sharing our story, helping others find the courage to set boundaries. We weren't rich. The TV appearances paid enough to cover our legal fees and security costs, but not much more. But we were free. Free from guilt, free from obligation, free from the weight of unpayable debts. And that was worth more than any vacation in Hawaii. The follow-up episode ended with a text card. Linda and Richard continue therapy and are slowly rebuilding relationships with their family. Wesley and his wife maintain limited contact with firm boundaries in place. Ramona declined to participate in this follow-up. Another card appeared. If you or someone you know is experiencing financial abuse from family members, resources are available. You are not alone. The night it aired, we got a different kind of message. From my mother-in-law. Thank you, it read, for not giving up on us, even when we deserved it. Wesley stared at his phone for a long time. Do you think they've actually changed? He asked. I don't know, I admitted. But maybe that's okay. Maybe we don't need them to be perfect. We just need them to be accountable. He nodded slowly. We're still not paying for Hawaii, though. I laughed. Absolutely not. 6 months after the follow-up episode aired, something unexpected happened. My mother-in-law got a job, her first in 30 years, part-time at a library, nothing glamorous, but it was hers. Money she earned without manipulating someone. She called Wesley to tell him. I forgot what it felt like, she said quietly. To have my own thing, not dependent on your father or you or anyone else. I'm proud of you, Wesley said, and meant it. It was the first genuine conversation they'd had in years. My father-in-law started volunteering at a financial literacy center, teaching budgeting classes to young adults. Maybe if I help others avoid my mistakes, he told Wesley, it'll mean something. It wasn't redemption, but it was recognition. That Christmas, we had dinner together, just the 4 of us. No extended family, no drama. They brought a dish to pass, not expecting us to pay for everything. They asked about our lives without making it about them. They didn't mention the loan once. It was almost normal, almost healthy. Before they left, my mother-in-law handed me an envelope. Don't open it now, she said. After they were gone, I opened it. Inside was a check for $2,400, made out to Wesley, and a note. This was never a loan. It was our responsibility as parents. We're sorry it took us so long to understand that. Wesley cried when I showed him. Not sad tears. Something else. Relief, maybe, or closure. I don't want their money, he said. I know, I replied. But maybe this isn't about the money. Maybe it's about them finally understanding. We donated the check to the Financial Literacy Center, where my father-in-law volunteered, in Wesley's name. When we told them, my father-in-law broke down. I don't deserve that, he said. No, Wesley agreed, but maybe it'll help someone who needs it. Years passed. Slowly, carefully, we rebuilt something resembling a relationship with Wesley's parents. It wasn't the family he'd grown up with. The dynamic had fundamentally changed, but it was healthier, honest, based on choice rather than obligation. We had our first child, a daughter, 3 years after the documentary aired. My in-laws asked if they could meet her. We said yes, with conditions. They couldn't buy expensive gifts, couldn't make comments about what we owed them, couldn't undermine our parenting. They agreed. The first time my mother-in-law held her granddaughter, she whispered, I'm going to do better with you, I promise. And she did. They both did. Not perfect, but better. They respected our boundaries, supported without smothering, loved without keeping score. Sometimes I wondered what would have happened if I hadn't booked that Cleveland trip. If I'd just given in, paid for Hawaii, and swallowed my resentment, we'd probably be miserable, trapped in an endless cycle of guilt and obligation. Instead, we broke the cycle. Not just for us, but for the next generation. Our daughter would grow up knowing love doesn't come with interest. That family means support, not debt. That gratitude is a gift, not a weapon. The documentary still airs occasionally. We get messages from time to time, people sharing their own breakthroughs, their own Cleveland moments. Some relationships survived, many didn't. But everyone who spoke up, who set boundaries, who refused to be financial hostages to their families, they all said the same thing. For the first time, I feel free. And really, that's what it was always about. Not money or vacations or who owed what to whom. freedom, self-determination, the right to build a life without someone else's hand on the scale. Last month, my in-laws actually took a trip, a modest vacation to a beach town 3 hours away. They paid for it themselves, sent us pictures, seemed genuinely happy. My mother-in-law's text message read, "This means so much more, knowing we did it ourselves. Thank you for teaching us that." Wesley showed me his phone, a small smile on his face. "Think they finally get it?" he asked. "Maybe," I said. "Or maybe they're still learning. Either way, it's their journey now, not ours." He pulled me close. "So, no regrets? About Cleveland? About the documentary? About blowing up our entire family?" I thought about it, really thought about it. The harassment, the threats, the months of anxiety and fear, but also the freedom, the boundaries, the healthier relationships we'd built from the ashes of the old ones. "Not even one," I said. Because here's what I learned. Sometimes destroying something toxic is the only way to build something healthy. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is stop enabling dysfunction. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is say no, even to family, especially to family. Our daughter is 5 now. She's never heard her grandparents mention loans or debts or what anyone owes. She just knows them as the people who bring books from the library and volunteer at the community center. The people who visit but don't overstay, who help but don't control, who love her freely with no strings attached. That's their redemption. Not the therapy or the apologies or the returned money, but the fact that she'll never know the version of them that we did. She'll never feel like a financial obligation, an investment that needs to pay off. She'll just be loved, period. And that's worth more than all the trips to Hawaii in the world. Sometimes I think about that first Sunday dinner, when they looked at us expectantly, assuming we'd fund their dreams. If I could go back, would I handle it differently? Maybe I'd be kinder in my delivery, less calculated in my revenge. But the outcome? No, I wouldn't change that. Because we didn't just book them a trip to Cleveland, we booked ourselves a trip to freedom. And that's the destination that mattered all along. I won't pretend it's always easy. Even now, years later, there are moments of tension. Last month, my mother-in-law suggested we all go on a family vacation together, to Hawaii of all places. My stomach dropped. Here we go again. But then she quickly added, "We'd pay for ourselves, of course. We just thought it would be nice to make new memories. Better ones." Wesley and I exchanged glances. "Let me check our budget," he said carefully. "Of course," she replied. "No pressure. We know you have your own family to think about now. No guilt trip. No manipulation. Just an invitation we were free to decline. We ended up saying yes, but we paid our own way, and they paid theirs. The trip wasn't perfect. My mother-in-law made a few passive-aggressive comments about our parenting choices. My father-in-law occasionally slipped into old patterns of expecting others to cover shared expenses, but when we called it out, they apologized. Actually apologized. "Old habits," my mother-in-law said with genuine embarrassment. "I'm sorry, that was inappropriate." Those words, "I'm sorry," had taken years to learn, but hearing them felt like a miracle. On the last night of the trip, we all sat on the beach watching the sunset. Our daughter built sandcastles with her grandparents, their laughter carrying on the ocean breeze. Wesley squeezed my hand. "We made it," he whispered. "To Hawaii. On our own terms." I smiled. Better late than never. My father-in-law overheard and chuckled. "You know," he said, "this trip means more to me than it would have 6 years ago. Back then, I thought I was entitled to it, that you owed it to us. Now I realize I had to earn the privilege of being here, of being part of your lives." My mother-in-law nodded, her eyes suspiciously bright. "We almost lost everything," she said quietly. "Our reputation, our relationships, our son. And for what? Pride? Control? Money that didn't even matter in the end?" She turned to me. "I know I can never fully make up for what I put you through, but I want you to know, I'm grateful. Not for the money or the trips, but for the fact that you loved my son enough to fight for him, even when that meant fighting against me." It wasn't a Hollywood moment. No dramatic music, no tearful embrace, just a simple acknowledgement, an understanding that had taken years of therapy, pain, and hard work to reach. "Thank you," I said, and meant it. That night, Wesley and I walked along the beach alone. Our daughter was asleep in our room, exhausted from playing in the waves all day. "Do you ever wonder," Wesley asked, "what our life would look like if you'd just booked them Hawaii from the start?" "All the time," I admitted. "And every time I realize we'd be here physically, but not really here. We'd be resentful, they'd be entitled, and nothing would have changed. The Cleveland trip was the catalyst," he said thoughtfully. "It wasn't just about the destination. It was about forcing everyone to face the truth. A very expensive, very public truth," I said wryly. He laughed. "Was it worth it? The documentary? The harassment? The threats?" I looked back at the hotel where our daughter slept, where my in-laws were in their own room, paid for with their own money, where boundaries existed and respect was mutual. "Every single second," I said. Because here's what most people don't understand about setting boundaries with toxic family members. It's not just about stopping the abuse. It's about creating space for something better to grow. If we'd caved to the pressure given them Hawaii, swallowed our feelings, the toxicity would have continued, probably gotten worse. Our daughter would have grown up watching her father be manipulated, seeing her mother dismissed, learning that love means accepting abuse. Instead, she's growing up seeing healthy boundaries, watching adults apologize when they're wrong, learning that family means respect, not obligation. That's the real gift. Not the trip to Hawaii or the money we saved or the documentary that aired, but the generational cycle we broke. The therapy my in-laws attend isn't just helping them, it's helping our daughter, her future children, every generation that comes after. Because we stopped the pattern, drew a line in the sand, said no more. And yes, it was brutal, messy, public, and painful. But sometimes the only way to save something worth saving is to first destroy what's killing it. We stayed in Hawaii for a week, made new memories, better ones. But the memory I treasure most isn't from that trip. It's from 2 weeks after we returned home. My mother-in-law called, crying. "What's wrong?" Wesley asked, alarmed. "Nothing's wrong," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I just wanted to say, I'm proud of you. Not for your practice or your house or your success, but for having the courage to stand up to me, for protecting your family, for being the kind of father I should have encouraged you to be." She paused. "I know I'm late saying this. Years too late. But I'm grateful you didn't give up on me completely, that you gave me a chance to do better." Wesley was quiet for a long moment. "I'm proud of you too, Mom," he finally said, "for doing the work, for trying to change." After he hung up, he sat in silence, processing. "You okay?" I asked. "Yeah," he said softly. "I think I finally am." And he was. We both were. Not because the situation was perfect or our relationship with his parents was fully healed, but because we'd done the hardest thing imaginable. We demanded better and refused to accept less. That's the real ending of this story. Not the documentary or the confrontation or the trip to Hawaii, but the quiet moments after, the therapy session, the awkward conversations, the slow, painful growth, the realization that healthy relationships require work from everyone involved, and the understanding that sometimes love means disappointing people, setting boundaries they don't like, choosing yourself when they want you to choose them. Our daughter will grow up hearing this story, not as a cautionary tale, but as a reminder that she never has to set herself on fire to keep others warm. That no is a complete sentence. That family members who truly love you will respect your boundaries, even when it's hard. Last week, she asked why we have rules about visiting grandma and grandpa. Because, I explained carefully, boundaries keep relationships healthy, like fences between neighbors. They're not meant to keep people out. They're meant to show where respect begins. "Did grandma and grandpa not have good fences?" she asked. I smiled at her 5-year-old wisdom. "Not at first, but they're learning to build them now. And that's what matters." She nodded, satisfied, and went back to her coloring. Simple in the way only childhood can be. But that simplicity is hard-won, built on years of difficult conversations and painful truths. So when people ask if I regret booking that Cleveland trip, my answer is always the same. I regret that it was necessary. I wish his parents had been capable of healthy love from the start. But do I regret standing up for us? For refusing to be manipulated? For drawing the line? Not for a single second. Because that Cleveland trip, as ridiculous as it seems, was the first time I prioritized our peace over their expectations. It was the moment I stopped negotiating with emotional terrorists. And it was the catalyst that eventually led to genuine healing. Not the kind of healing where we pretend nothing happened, but the kind where we acknowledge the harm, do the work, and slowly build something better. Some family members never forgave us. Ramona hasn't spoken to us in years. Various aunts and uncles chose sides, and we lost relationships we thought were solid. But the relationships that survived, they're stronger, built on truth instead of obligation, on respect instead of guilt. And honestly, I prefer a small circle of genuine relationships to a large circle of toxic ones. Quality over quantity. Always. Wesley sometimes jokes that we should write a book. How to Book Your Toxic In-Laws, A Trip to Cleveland and Survive. I laugh every time, but there's truth in the humor. Because this isn't just our story. It's the story of millions of people trapped in toxic family dynamics, afraid to rock the boat, convinced that maintaining peace is worth sacrificing themselves. To all of them, I'd say this. Sometimes the boat needs to be rocked. Sometimes peace isn't peace at all. It's just silence in the face of abuse. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is refuse to participate in dysfunction. Will it be easy? No. Will everyone understand? Absolutely not. Will there be consequences? Probably. But will you finally be free? Yes. And that freedom, the ability to live authentically, set boundaries, and choose relationships that honor your worth, is priceless. More valuable than any trip to Hawaii. More precious than any family approval. Because at the end of the day, you only get one life. And spending it as a hostage to other people's expectations is no way to live. So if you're reading this from inside a toxic family dynamic, wondering if you have the right to set boundaries, wondering if you're being ungrateful or selfish, you're not. You deserve respect. You deserve relationships that don't cost your mental health. You deserve to say no without being punished. And if the people in your life can't accept that, maybe they're not the family you thought they were. Or maybe, like my in-laws, they need a wake-up call to start doing better. Either way, the outcome isn't your responsibility. Your responsibility is to protect yourself and the family you choose to build. Everything else is secondary. That's the lesson I learned from one weekend in Cleveland that never happened. That saying no, drawing boundaries, and demanding better doesn't make you the villain. It makes you free. And freedom, I've discovered, looks different for everyone. For some, it's cutting contact completely. For others, it's maintaining limited contact with strict boundaries. For us, it's landed somewhere in between. Conditional connection, earned trust, relationships that exist because we choose them, not because we're obligated to them. Your freedom might look different, and that's okay. The important thing is that you choose it, deliberately, unapologetically, because you deserve to live a life that's yours, not a life choreographed by guilt, manipulated by obligation, or dictated by people who confuse control with love. So book that metaphorical trip to Cleveland, draw that boundary, have that difficult conversation. It might blow up your whole world, but sometimes that's exactly what needs to happen for something better to grow. And when people ask if you regret it, you'll know the answer. Not for a single second, because the destination was never Hawaii or Cleveland or anywhere else. The destination was always freedom, and that's worth every difficult moment it took to get there. My husband's mother planned the whole family vacation without inviting me, then called furious when he canceled and booked us a trip to Europe instead. That should have been the end of it. But with Diane, nothing ever ends cleanly. The phone call came at 6:47 a.m. on what was supposed to be the first morning of our honeymoon in Paris. "How dare you embarrass me in front of the entire family?" she shrieked before I'd even said hello. Apparently, she'd spent the last week telling everyone at the lake house that her son had finally come to his senses about our marriage. Let me back up. Theo and I had been married for 3 months when his mom sent out a group text announcing the annual family reunion, 2 weeks at their lake house in July. She listed every family member attending: Theo's dad, his 2 sisters, their husbands, all 4 kids, even his cousin Brett, who nobody had seen in 6 years. My name wasn't on the list. When Theo asked about it, she said, "Oh, I assumed you'd come alone. Give you boys some bonding time." Theo pointed out that I was his wife now. She laughed and said, "Sweetie, family vacations are for family. She'll understand." I told Theo to go without me. I meant it. But he just stared at his phone for a long moment, then called the airline and canceled his flight. That same night, he booked us 2 weeks in Paris and Rome. The flights alone cost more than I made in 2 months at the clinic. Diane called 47 times in 3 days. Theo ignored everyone. She showed up at our apartment twice. We didn't answer the door. Her final voicemail said, "You're choosing that woman over your own mother." So there we were in Paris, eating croissants in our tiny hotel room at dawn because his mother had somehow gotten our international number. Theo's face had gone pale. "Mom, we're not having this conversation," he said quietly, but she wasn't done. She informed us that she'd told everyone the truth, that I'd manipulated Theo into abandoning his family, that I was isolating him, that his dad was heartbroken. Theo hung up. We spent the rest of the day pretending everything was fine, but I could see him checking his phone constantly. That night, his sister Violet called. "You need to fix this," she said. "Mom's been crying for days. Dad's barely speaking. You're tearing this family apart over a stupid vacation." We came home early, not because of the guilt trips, but because Theo couldn't enjoy anything with his phone exploding every 20 minutes. The moment we landed, Diane announced a family dinner to welcome us back and clear the air. Mandatory attendance. When we arrived at his parents' house, the entire extended family was there, all of them staring at me like I'd personally canceled Christmas. Diane stood at the head of the table and smiled. "Now that everyone's here, I have an announcement." She reached into her purse and pulled out a manila envelope. "Since you two missed family vacation, I thought we should discuss your future family vacations. I've prepared some guidelines." She slid papers across the table. Actual printed guidelines. Rule number 1. Family events take priority over personal travel. Rule number 4. Spouses attend family functions separately until they've been married for 5 years. Rule number 7. All vacation plans must be approved by family vote. The room was silent. Theo picked up the papers and read through them slowly. His hands were shaking. Then he did something I'd never seen him do. He laughed. Not a polite laugh. A deep, genuine laugh that made his dad flinch. "You're serious?" Theo said. Diane's smile faltered. "Your father and I spent considerable time." "Do you have any idea?" Theo interrupted, his voice dropping to something cold I didn't recognize. "What you actually just handed me?" He pulled out his phone and took pictures of every page. Then he looked at his mother and said the words that made everyone freeze. "This is going to be really useful in court." The silence that followed wasn't the kind you get when someone makes a joke nobody understands. It was the kind that happens when everyone realizes something fundamental just shifted. Diane's mouth opened slightly. His dad set down his wine glass with a clink that sounded too loud. "Court?" Diane repeated. Her voice went up half an octave. "What are you talking about?" Theo stood up. He gathered the papers carefully, folding them along their original creases. "I'm talking about the restraining order we're going to file. The one that's going to cite this document as evidence of harassment and attempted control." He looked around the table at his sisters, his dad, his cousin Brett, who was suddenly very interested in his plate. "Anyone want to explain to Mom what happens when you put threats in writing?" "Threats?" His dad finally spoke. "Theo, these are just family guidelines. Your mother was trying to..." "To what?" Theo's voice cracked. Not from emotion, from something colder. "To legally mandate that my wife isn't part of this family for 5 years? To require a family vote before we can take a vacation?" He held up the papers. Rule number 12. Failure to comply with family guidelines may result in reduction of inheritance consideration. "That's not a guideline, Dad. That's extortion." I sat frozen. I'd never heard Theo talk like this. In 3 months of marriage and 2 years of dating before that, I'd seen him frustrated with his mother. I'd seen him tired. I'd seen him make excuses. But I'd never seen this. Violet spoke up. "You're overreacting. Mom just wanted to make sure that I know my place." Theo finished. Rule number 9. Spouses may not speak during family meetings until invited to do so by a family member. Rule number 15. Family members maintain veto power over spouse-related decisions, including career changes, major purchases, and residential moves. He laughed again, that same hollow sound. "Tell me, Violet, when Greg wanted to take that job in Seattle, did you need permission from this table?" Violet went red. "That's different." "Why? Because Greg's a man? Or because Mom likes him?" "Because Greg respects this family," Diane cut in. Her voice had gone from shocked to sharp. "He understands that family comes first. He doesn't encourage my children to cut me out of their lives." "I haven't cut you out," Theo said quietly. "You cut yourself out when you decided my wife wasn't welcome at your lake house. You doubled down when you spent our honeymoon calling to tell me what a terrible son I am, and you tripled down when you typed up a legally questionable document designed to punish me for choosing my wife over your need for control." "I raised you better than this," Diane said. Tears were forming in her eyes. Real ones, I thought. "I gave you everything, and this is how you repay me? You did raise me better than this." Theo's voice dropped even lower. You raised me to stand up for the people I love, to protect them when they're being treated unfairly, to recognize manipulation when I see it. So thank you, Mom. You raised me exactly right. He turned to me. We're leaving. I stood up on shaky legs. Nobody else moved. As we walked toward the door, Diane called out, "If you walk out that door, don't expect me to be here when you come crawling back." Theo stopped, turned. "I'll take that risk." We drove home in silence. I kept waiting for him to break down, to second-guess himself, to reach for his phone to apologize. He did none of those things. He just drove, his jaw tight, his hands steady on the wheel. When we got inside our apartment, he finally spoke. "I need to call someone." "Who?" "A lawyer." He wasn't joking. The next morning, we sat in a small office across from a woman named Patricia who specialized in family law. Theo laid out the papers. Patricia read through them slowly, her expression getting more concerned with each page. "This is," she paused, "honestly, one of the more concerning things I've seen. Your mother essentially created a contract without your consent that attempts to control major life decisions. She's outlined punishments for non-compliance. And she distributed this to your entire extended family, which could be construed as defamation if any of these claims about your wife are false." "They're all false," Theo said. Patricia nodded. "Can you document the harassment? Phone calls? Text messages? Any written communication?" Theo pulled out his phone. He'd been keeping track. 47 calls during our Paris trip, 32 text messages, 17 voicemails, 2 visits to our apartment that our neighbor had mentioned. "And now this document. This is sufficient for a restraining order," Patricia said. "But I have to warn you, this will permanently damage your relationship with your family. Are you prepared for that?" Theo didn't hesitate. "Yes." I grabbed his hand. "This is your mom, your family." He looked at me. His eyes were clear. We filed the paperwork that afternoon. A temporary restraining order requiring Diane to stay at least 500 feet away from us, our home, and our workplaces. No phone calls, no texts, no contact through third parties. The hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks out. Diane's response came through his dad. Not directly, because that would violate the temporary order, but his dad could still contact Theo. He called that evening. "Your mother is devastated. She's barely eating. She didn't mean for things to go this far." "Then she shouldn't have created a legal document trying to control my life," Theo said. "She was just trying to keep the family together." "By excluding my wife?" His dad sighed. "Look, I know your mother can be difficult, but this? A restraining order? You're going to regret this, son." "Maybe, but I'd regret letting her treat my wife like garbage a lot more." The family group chat exploded. I wasn't on it, but Theo showed me the messages. Violet said he was being dramatic. His other sister, Nora, said he was breaking their mother's heart. Cousin Brett, who nobody had heard from in 6 years, suddenly had opinions about loyalty and family values. Greg, Violet's husband, sent a long message about how every family has conflicts, and this was an overreaction. Theo responded once. "If anyone in this chat thinks those guidelines were reasonable, I'm happy to discuss it with you in person, individually, not as a group." Nobody took him up on it. The next few days were strange, quiet. For the first time since we'd gotten married, Theo's phone wasn't constantly buzzing. No morning calls from his mom, no texts about family events we needed to attend, no guilt trips about not visiting enough, just silence. "Is this weird?" I asked him one morning. "Yeah," he admitted, "but also kind of nice." Then the flying monkeys arrived. That's what Patricia called them. People who do the abuser's bidding without realizing they're being manipulated. First came Theo's aunt, his dad's sister, who called to say how worried everyone was, how Diane had always been so proud of Theo, how family was forever and wives came and went. "Did you really just say that?" Theo asked. His aunt backtracked. "I didn't mean it like that. I just meant that you think my marriage is temporary?" "No, I meant that family bonds are sacred and you shouldn't throw them away over a misunderstanding." "It's not a misunderstanding. She created rules to exclude my wife from family events for 5 years. She put them in writing. She threatened my inheritance if I didn't comply. Which part of that is a misunderstanding?" His aunt didn't have an answer for that. Next came family friends. People I'd met once or twice at holiday gatherings. They'd call Theo or show up at the clinic where I worked to tell me how much Diane loved her son, how she was just traditional, how I should be more understanding of different generational perspectives on family. "She's 53, I told one of them. "She's not from the 1800s. She knows that wives are part of families." The worst was when Violet showed up at our apartment. She knocked for 10 minutes before Theo finally opened the door. "You need to drop this," she said immediately. "Mom's on antidepressants now. Dad says she cries herself to sleep every night. You're destroying her." "I'm destroying her?" Theo's voice was flat. "She tried to institutionalize rules that would treat my wife like a second-class citizen for half a decade. But I'm the bad guy? You're taking this too far. It was just some stupid papers. Then why did she make them? Why did she print them out and distribute them to the whole family? Why did she make rules about reducing my inheritance?" Violet's face crumpled. "Because she's scared of losing you." Then she should have thought about that before excluding the person I chose to spend my life with. She didn't exclude her. She just wanted some family time with just us. For 2 weeks. Every summer. With rules that said wives aren't really family for 5 years. "Do you hear yourself right now?" Violet left crying. Theo closed the door and leaned against it. "Am I crazy?" he asked. "Is this actually insane?" I'd been asking myself the same question. Diane's behavior was bad. Really bad. But a restraining order? Court? Permanent family damage? It felt extreme. But then I thought about those papers. About the methodical way she'd laid out rules designed to keep me at arm's length. About the inheritance threats. About spending our honeymoon fielding her screaming phone calls. "No," I said. "You're not crazy." The hearing arrived. We sat in a courtroom that smelled like floor polish and anxiety. Patricia sat between us with her neat stack of documents. Across the aisle, Diane sat with her lawyer, a man in a suit that probably cost more than our rent. His dad sat behind them. So did Violet and Nora and their husbands. The judge was a woman in her 60s who looked like she'd seen everything and been impressed by none of it. She read through the documents slowly, the guidelines, the phone logs, the text messages, the voicemails where Diane called me a manipulator and told Theo he'd regret choosing me. Diane's lawyer spoke first. Your Honor, this is clearly a family disagreement that's been blown out of proportion. Mrs. Harlow is a loving mother who was trying to maintain family traditions. She never intended to harass anyone. The document in question was simply a conversation starter, not a legal mandate. A conversation starter? Patricia stood up. That conversation starter includes specific rules, enumerated punishments, and threats about inheritance. It was distributed to the entire extended family at a mandatory dinner, and when my clients left, Mrs. Harlow told them not to come back. These aren't the actions of someone trying to have a conversation. The judge looked at Diane. Is this accurate? Diane stood. She looked smaller than I'd ever seen her, frail. Her eyes were red. Your Honor, I love my son. I was just trying to protect our family traditions. This woman came into his life and suddenly he's skipping family events, ignoring our calls. I was scared of losing him. So you created rules to govern his marriage? I created guidelines for our family gatherings. I didn't mean for them to be legal documents. I'm not a lawyer. I was just trying to make sure everyone understood the expectations. The expectations that his wife wouldn't be welcome at family events for 5 years? Diane's voice broke. I never said she wasn't welcome. I just thought it would be nice to have some time with just our family occasionally, for 2 weeks every summer. Yes. And you didn't think to discuss this with your son beforehand? I didn't think I needed permission to plan a family vacation. The judge turned to Theo. Do you want to speak? Theo stood. His voice was steady. My mother has spent the last 3 months trying to erase my wife from our family. She excluded her from the vacation planning. She called her a manipulator to our entire family. She created a document that would legally exclude her from being considered part of the family for 5 years. When I set a boundary by canceling our trip and taking my wife to Paris instead, she called us screaming on our honeymoon 47 times in 3 days. She showed up at our apartment twice when we didn't answer. And when we finally agreed to come to dinner to talk things through, she presented these guidelines like they were legally binding contracts. He paused. I don't think I'm asking for too much. I just want my mother to stay away from us until she can treat my wife with basic respect. The judge was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, Mr. Harlow, I'm going to grant your restraining order. Mrs. Harlow is to maintain a distance of 500 feet from you, your wife, your home, and your workplaces. No direct or indirect contact for a period of 6 months. At that time, we can revisit this if both parties agree to mediation. Diane made a sound like a wounded animal. His dad put his arm around her. The judge continued, Mrs. Harlow, I'm going to be direct with you. What you did was inappropriate. You created rules designed to punish your son for choosing his wife. You harassed them during their honeymoon, and you tried to use family pressure and financial threats to control their behavior. That's not love. That's control. I suggest you use these 6 months to reflect on that distinction. We left the courthouse through a side exit to avoid the family. Patricia walked us to our car. This was the right choice, she said. I know it doesn't feel like it right now, but you protected yourselves and set a clear boundary. That matters. Theo nodded. He looked exhausted. The fallout was immediate. His dad called that night, leaving a voicemail about how we'd humiliated Diane in front of the whole family. Violet sent a series of texts about how we were tearing the family apart. Nora blocked us on all social media and told mutual friends we were dead to her. But something else happened too. Theo's cousin Brett called. Hey, I know we don't really talk much, but I wanted you to know I get it. My wife and I dealt with something similar with her mom. It nearly destroyed us. You did the right thing. A woman from Theo's office, someone he barely knew, stopped him in the hallway. I heard about what happened with your mom. My mother-in-law tried the same thing. It took us years to set boundaries. Good for you for doing it now. His college roommate sent a long message about his own experience with an overbearing parent and how cutting contact was the healthiest thing he'd ever done. It turned out a lot of people had stories. They just didn't talk about them at family dinners. The first month was hard. Theo would sometimes pick up his phone to call his mom about something random, then remember he couldn't. He'd see something funny and think about sending it to his dad, then stop. Holidays were the worst. Thanksgiving came and we spent it alone in our apartment. We ordered Chinese food and watched movies. It felt wrong, but also kind of peaceful. No stress about what to wear or say. No walking on eggshells to avoid setting off his mom. No forced conversations with family members who thought I'd stolen Theo away. Just us. And honestly, after years of tense family gatherings, it was relief. Christmas was harder. Theo's birthday had always been a big family thing. His mom would make his favorite cake. Everyone would gather and tell embarrassing stories. This year, we went to dinner at a quiet restaurant. Just the two of us. Theo was quiet all night. I miss them, he admitted on the drive home. I know. But I can't go back. Not unless things change. I know that too. In February, Theo got a letter. Not from his mom. That would violate the restraining order. From his dad. Written on actual paper in his dad's messy handwriting. It said, Son, I've spent the last few months thinking about everything that happened. Your mother's been going to therapy. So have I. We're trying to understand where things went wrong. I can't speak for your mother, and I'm not asking you to forgive her, but I want you to know that I'm sorry. I saw what she was doing, and I didn't stop it. I told myself she was just being a concerned mother, but you were right. Those guidelines were wrong. The way she treated your wife was wrong. The way I enabled it was wrong. I don't know if you'll ever want to have a relationship with us again. I wouldn't blame you if you didn't. But I wanted you to know that I see it now, and I'm sorry. Theo read the letter 3 times. Then he folded it carefully and put it in his desk drawer. I'm not ready, he said. That's okay, but maybe someday. That's okay too. 3 months later, the restraining order was up for review. Patricia called to ask if we wanted to extend it or try mediation. Your mother's lawyer contacted. She's willing to do family therapy. No promises, no expectations. Just a neutral space to talk. Theo thought about it for a week. Finally, he said yes, but on his terms. We'd meet with a therapist who specialized in family dynamics and narcissistic behavior. His mom had to acknowledge what she'd done wrong before we'd discuss any kind of future relationship, and I'd be present for every session. The first session was tense. We sat in a bright office with plants in every corner and inspirational posters about communication. The therapist, Dr. Rivera, was a calm woman who didn't seem ruffled by anything. Diane sat across from us, looking small and nervous. His dad sat beside her. Dr. Rivera started simple. Diane, can you tell me why we're here? Diane took a breath. Because I hurt my son and his wife, and I need to make it right. Can you be specific about what you did? This was the hard part. Diane's face worked for a moment. I could see her wanting to deflect, to explain, to justify. But finally, she said, I tried to exclude his wife from our family. I made rules that would have kept her at arm's length for years. I called them during their honeymoon to guilt trip them. I tried to use family pressure and financial threats to control their behavior. Her voice broke. I was so scared of losing him that I did exactly the thing that pushed him away. Why were you scared of losing him? Because he changed when he met her. He started saying no to family events. He moved out of our neighborhood. He stopped calling as much. Diane looked at me for the first time. I blamed you. I thought you were taking him away from us. But the truth is, he was just growing up, and I didn't know how to handle that. Dr. Rivera turned to Theo. What do you need from your mother? Theo's voice was steady. I need her to understand that my wife is my family now. Not instead of them, but equal to them. I need her to treat my wife with the same respect she'd treat Violet's husband or Nora's husband. No different rules, no separate standards. I need her to apologize not just to me, but to my wife. And I need to know that if we have kids someday, she won't try to push my wife out again. Diane nodded slowly. Then she turned to me. I'm sorry. I was cruel to you. I made you feel unwelcome in our family. I said terrible things about you to people you'd have to see at family gatherings. I tried to convince my son that you were manipulating him, when really I was the one trying to manipulate everyone. Tears were streaming down her face. You didn't deserve any of that. And I'm so sorry. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to stay angry. Part of me wanted to protect myself from getting hurt again. But part of me just saw a scared woman who'd made terrible choices and was trying to fix them. Thank you, I said finally. I appreciate you saying that. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was a start. We did 6 more sessions over the next 3 months. Slowly, carefully, we started rebuilding something. Diane had to learn that she couldn't control Theo's life anymore. Theo had to learn that setting boundaries didn't mean cutting everyone off forever. I had to learn to trust that Diane wouldn't hurt me again. It wasn't perfect. There were setbacks. Once Diane suggested we come to the lake house in July and mentioned maybe I could visit friends while the family spent some time together. Dr. Rivera had to gently remind her why that was problematic. Diane cried, apologized, and admitted she was still struggling with old patterns. But she was trying, really trying. In October, almost a year after the courthouse hearing, we accepted an invitation to Sunday dinner at their house. Just us, his parents, and his sisters with their families. When we arrived, Diane greeted us at the door. She hugged Theo, then hesitated before hugging me. Thank you for coming, she said. Both of you. Dinner was awkward. Everyone was trying too hard to be normal, but nobody made comments about how we'd missed the lake house again this year. Nobody questioned our vacation plans. Nobody treated me like I was on probation. We were just another couple at a family dinner. As we were leaving, Violet pulled me aside. I owe you an apology, she said quietly. I didn't understand what you were going through. I thought you were overreacting. But Mom's been in therapy and she's talked about some of the stuff she did. I didn't see it when it was happening, but I see it now. I'm sorry I didn't support you. Thank you, I said. That means a lot. On the drive home, Theo was quiet. Finally, he said, do you think we'll ever be normal? I don't know. Maybe normal isn't the goal. What is the goal then? I thought about it. Honest. The goal is to be honest. To not pretend things are fine when they're not. To not sweep stuff under the rug because it's uncomfortable. I can live with honest, Theo said. 2 years later, Diane still goes to therapy. So do we, occasionally, when things feel tense. We spend some holidays with Theo's family, and some alone. Sometimes his mom slips up, makes a comment that suggests she still sees me as temporary or less than. When that happens, Theo calls it out immediately. And Diane apologizes. It's not perfect. It's probably not even what most people would call good. But it's real. And after everything we went through, real feels like enough. Last month, Diane asked if she could take us out to dinner for our anniversary. Just the 3 of us. She wanted to give us a gift. We agreed, cautiously. At dinner, she slid an envelope across the table. Inside was a check for the exact amount Theo had spent on our Paris trip. I can't give you back the honeymoon I ruined, she said, but maybe you can take another trip, somewhere you've always wanted to go. No phone calls this time, I promise. Theo looked at the check for a long time. Then he looked at his mother. Thank you. We used the money to go to Japan, and Diane kept her promise. She didn't call once. When we got back, I found a card in our mailbox. It was from Diane. Inside it just said, welcome home. Let me know when you want to come over for dinner and share photos. Not a demand, not an expectation, just an invitation. I showed it to Theo. What do you think? He smiled. I think we should go. We went the following Sunday. Diane made Theo's favorite cake. Not because it was his birthday or a special occasion, just because. We looked at photos on my phone. Diane asked questions about the temples we visited and the food we tried. She didn't make any comments about how long we'd been gone or how much she'd missed us. She just listened. As we were leaving, she hugged me goodbye. A real hug, not the awkward side squeeze from before. I'm glad you're part of this family, she said quietly. Really glad. I realized something then. The restraining order, the court hearing, the months of therapy, they hadn't torn the family apart. They'd given us the space to build something healthier, something based on respect instead of obligation, choice instead of guilt. Diane would never be the mother-in-law who felt like a second mom. That ship had sailed, but she could be someone I respected, someone I trusted to treat me fairly, someone who was working on herself even when it was hard. That was more than enough. Now, 3 years after that family dinner with the guidelines, I'm sitting in a hospital room. Theo's holding my hand. His parents are in the waiting room along with his sisters. We're about to become parents ourselves, and I'm not worried about Diane trying to take over or push me aside. Well, maybe a little worried. Old habits die hard, but I know if she oversteps, Theo will handle it. We've proven we can set boundaries. We've proven we can walk away if we need to. That knowledge makes it easier to let people back in. The nurse tells me it's almost time. Theo squeezes my hand. Ready? He asks. As ready as I'll ever be. 3 hours later, we're holding our daughter. She's tiny and red and perfect. When the family comes in to meet her, Diane hangs back, waiting to be invited forward. I gesture her closer. She looks at the baby with tears streaming down her face. She's beautiful, Diane whispers. Do you want to hold her? I ask. Diane's eyes go wide. Are you sure? Yeah, I'm sure. As Diane cradles our daughter, I catch Theo's eye. He mouths, "Thank you." I shake my head. This isn't about being generous or forgiving. This is about our daughter deserving to know her grandmother. About giving Diane the chance to do better this time. About trust being earned and not demanded. Later, after everyone's left and it's just us and the baby, Theo says, I never thought we'd get here. To having a kid? To having a kid that my mom gets to meet. That we want her to meet. She earned it, I say. She did the work. So did we. Yeah, we did. Our daughter makes a small noise in her sleep. Theo strokes her tiny hand. I want to do better than they did. I want her to always feel chosen, always feel like a priority. She will, I say, because we know what it looks like when family gets it wrong, and we'll make sure we get it right. It's a promise I hope we can keep, but if there's one thing I've learned from these past few years, it's that good intentions aren't enough. You have to back them up with actions, with boundaries, with the willingness to walk away if love turns toxic. Diane learned that the hard way. So did we. And now we're teaching it to our daughter, not through lectures or rules, but through example. By showing her that family is about respect, not control, choice, not obligation, and that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is walk away until everyone's ready to do better. 6 months later, we're back in Dr. Rivera's office, not for crisis management this time, for what she calls maintenance. We come every few months, the three of us, to check in and make sure we're staying on track. Today, Diane brings up the holidays. I wanted to float an idea, she says carefully. What if we started a new tradition? Instead of always doing things at our house with the whole family, what if we rotated? Your house 1 year, Violet's the next, then Nora's, then back to us. I can see what she's doing. She's giving up control, spreading it out, making everyone feel equal. I think that's a great idea, Theo says. But, Diane continues, I need to know if there are other things I'm doing that make you uncomfortable. I can't fix what I don't know about. This is new. The old Diane would have defended herself, explained her intentions, made excuses. This Diane is asking for feedback. Theo thinks for a moment. Sometimes you still make comments about how much time we spend at my wife's parents' house, like we're keeping score. Diane nods slowly. You're right. I do that. I don't mean to, but I catch myself doing the math. Thanksgiving with them, Christmas Eve with us, Easter with them, like it has to be perfectly equal, or I'm losing. You're not losing, I say. We love you both. We're just splitting our time. I know that intellectually, but emotionally, Diane shakes her head. I'm still working on it. Thank you for telling me. I'll be more aware. Dr. Rivera smiles. This is exactly the kind of communication that builds healthy relationships, being able to give and receive feedback without defensiveness. We talk for another 40 minutes about smaller things, about how Diane sometimes offers parenting advice that feels like criticism, about how we sometimes exclude her from decisions about the baby because we're scared she'll take over, about how his dad still tries to play mediator when he should let us handle things directly. It's not fun. It's not comfortable, but it's necessary. As we're leaving, Diane hesitates. Can I say something that might be hard to hear? Of course, Theo says. I'm grateful for the restraining order. We both stare at her. She continues. I know that sounds insane, but it was the wake-up call I needed. If you'd just let me keep treating you that way, kept trying to appease me, I never would have changed. I would have kept getting worse. The restraining order forced me to look at what I'd become, and it gave us the space we needed to reset. She wipes her eyes. So thank you for loving me enough to set that boundary. Theo's voice is thick when he responds. You're welcome, Mom. In the car, Theo is quiet for a long time. Finally, he says, I never thought I'd hear her say that. Say what? That she was grateful. That it helped. He pulls into our driveway and turns off the car. Do you think we made the right choice? Going back? Do you? He considers this. Yeah, I do. Because we're going back on our terms. We set the boundaries. We enforced them. And we only reopened the door when she'd proven she could respect those boundaries. Exactly. But what if she slips again? What if this doesn't last? Then we'll deal with it. We know how to walk away now. We've proven we can do it. That's power. He nods slowly. I wish I'd known that earlier. That you could love someone and still enforce boundaries. That walking away doesn't mean giving up. Most people don't learn that until it's too late. We're lucky we learned it now. Our daughter starts crying from the back seat. Theo gets out to unbuckle her. As he lifts her out of the car seat, I watch the gentle way he holds her. The way he murmurs soft words and checks her diaper, her hands, her feet, making sure everything's okay. He's going to be a good dad, better than his parents were, because he knows what not to do. Inside, I get a text from my own mother. How was therapy? Good, I type back. Productive. That's wonderful, honey. We're still on for Sunday dinner? Wouldn't miss it. My parents' reaction to everything with Diane was measured. They didn't insert themselves. They didn't give unsolicited advice. They just supported us and kept their door open. When I thanked my mom for not making it worse, she'd said, "Honey, you're adults. You don't need us to rescue you. You just need to know we're here." That's the kind of parent I want to be. Present, but not controlling. Supportive, but not smothering. Available, but not demanding. Sunday dinner at my parents' house is easy, relaxed. Nobody's keeping score of who spent more time where. Nobody's making passive-aggressive comments about missed phone calls. We just eat and talk and laugh and play with the baby. My dad, holding his granddaughter, says, "You know, I never understood why some families make everything so complicated. You love each other. You respect each other. Everything else is just noise." Not everyone got the memo, Theo says with a smile. Clearly. My dad bounces the baby gently. But you two figured it out. That's what matters. On the drive home, Theo says, "Your family makes it look so easy. They have their own problems." I remind him, "They're just different problems." I know, but still, nobody's creating guidelines for how often we can visit or demanding we prove our loyalty. Your family's getting there, I say. It just took longer. 3 years and a restraining order longer, he says wryly. However long it takes. That night, after we've put the baby down, Theo pulls out his phone. He shows me a text from Violet. Mom wants to plan a family photo session. Professional photographer, everyone dressed up. She wants to include in-laws this time. Make sure everyone's in the picture. How do you feel about that? I ask. Suspicious, he admits. But also hopeful? Is that naive? No. It's growth. We agree to the photo session. When the day comes, Diane has hired a photographer who specializes in large families. There's no seating chart dictating who stands where. No comments about my outfit or hair. When the photographer suggests grouping the couples together, Diane doesn't suggest separating the spouses for some shots with just the blood relatives. She's learned. The photos turn out beautiful. Diane orders prints for everyone. When ours arrives in the mail, there's a note attached. For your wall. All of us, together. As it should be. I hang it in our living room. Not because Diane wants me to, but because I want to. Because it represents something we fought for. Something we almost lost, but managed to save. Theo comes up behind me as I'm adjusting the frame. Looks good, he says. It does. You think we'll look back on this someday and laugh about how dramatic it all was? Maybe. Or maybe we'll look back and be grateful we didn't let it slide. Probably both. Our daughter starts crying from the nursery. Theo goes to get her while I finish straightening the photo. In it, we're all smiling. Diane's standing next to me, her hand on my shoulder. It looks like any normal family photo. You'd never know the history behind it. But we know, and that makes it mean something. That night, Diane calls. Not to check on the baby or ask about our schedule. Just to say goodnight. I saw the photo session pictures on the photographer's website, she says. We look happy. We are happy, Theo says. Good. That's all I ever wanted. She pauses. That's not true. I wanted control. I wanted things my way. But now I really do just want you to be happy. Even if that means I'm not always included. You're included, Mom. You're just not in charge. I'm learning to be okay with that. After they hang up, Theo looks at me. She's different. She is. Do you trust it? I think about this carefully. I trust that she's trying. I trust that she knows we'll walk away again if we need to. I don't trust that she's perfect or that she'll never mess up, but I trust the process. That's very diplomatic. I've had practice. We laugh. It feels good to laugh about something that used to feel so heavy. A year later, we're planning our daughter's first birthday party. Diane calls to ask if she can help. I was thinking I could make a cake. Or if you want to order one, I could handle decorations. Or nothing. I can just show up and bring a present, whatever you need. Actually, I say, a cake would be great, if you want to. I'd love to. She sounds genuinely happy. Not manipulative or guilt-trippy, just happy to be asked. Any flavor preferences? She's one. She'll probably just smash it, whatever you want to make. I'll make her daddy's favorite. Start that tradition. That sounds perfect. The party is chaotic in the best way. Both sets of grandparents, Theo's sisters, and their families. A few friends from the clinic, some neighbors. Our small backyard is packed. The baby has frosting in her hair and everyone's taking pictures. I watch Diane interacting with my mother. They're laughing about something, heads bent together. A few years ago, I couldn't have imagined this. Diane viewing my mother as an equal grandmother instead of competition. Violet sidles up next to me. This is nice, she says. It is. I'm sorry I didn't see it before. What Mom was doing to you. You've apologized. It's okay. No, I'm sorry I was part of the problem. I told you to just deal with it. To not make waves. I was protecting Mom instead of acknowledging that you deserved better. She watches Diane playing with the baby. Greg and I have been in therapy too. Turns out I picked up some of Mom's habits. The need to control everything. The guilt trips when things don't go my way. That takes guts to work on. Yeah, well, I saw what it took for you and Theo to fix things. I didn't want it to get that bad for us. She squeezes my arm. Thanks for not giving up on this family. Thanks for making it worth staying. As the party winds down and people start leaving, Diane helps us clean up. She doesn't try to take over. She doesn't reorganize our kitchen or make comments about how we should have done things differently. She just helps. When we're done, she hugs us both goodbye. Thank you for including me, she says, in all of this. I know I don't deserve it. You earned it, Theo says. You did the work. After everyone's gone and the baby's asleep, Theo and I collapse on the couch. That went well, he says. Shockingly well. Do you think we're past it now? All the drama? I don't know if you're ever really past it, but we're in a good place. And we know how to protect that place if we need to. I'm proud of us, he says quietly, for not just giving in, for fighting for our marriage. Me too. We sit in comfortable silence, exhausted from the party but happy. The photo from last year catches my eye. All of us together, smiling. We've come so far from that family dinner with the guidelines, but I keep those guidelines. They're in a folder in our filing cabinet, right next to the restraining order paperwork and Dr. Rivera's therapy notes. Not because I want to remember the bad times, but because I never want to forget what we fought for. The right to be treated with respect, the right to be considered family, the right to set boundaries without being punished. Those aren't small things. They're everything, and we won them. 6 months later, I'm pregnant again. When we tell Diane, she cries happy tears. Another grandbaby, she says. I'm so grateful I get to be part of this. Not, I'm so grateful you're giving me another grandchild, but I'm grateful I get to be part of this. The difference matters. Throughout the pregnancy, she's helpful, but not intrusive. She offers advice when asked, but doesn't push. When the baby comes, a boy this time, she waits to be invited to the hospital instead of just showing up. I'm learning, she tells me when I thank her for being considerate. Slowly, but I'm learning. At our son's baptism, Diane gives a speech. I wasn't sure I'd be here for this, she says, her voice shaking slightly. A few years ago, I made some terrible choices that nearly cost me my relationship with my son. I tried to control instead of love. I demanded instead of invited. I nearly lost everything that mattered because I couldn't let go. She looks at Theo, then at me. These two saved me by refusing to let me destroy them. They set boundaries. They walked away when they needed to. And they gave me the chance to do better. That's real love. Not the kind that tolerates abuse, but the kind that demands growth. She raises her glass. To family, the real kind, the kind you choose every day. Everyone drinks. I catch my mother's eye. She nods, a small smile on her face. She's proud of me, proud of us. Later, Diane pulls me aside. I have something for you. She hands me an envelope. Inside is a card. On the front, it says, to my daughter-in-law. Inside, she's written, I will never be able to fully apologize for how I treated you. The exclusion, the harassment, the attempt to erase you from our family. Words aren't enough, but I want you to know that I see you now. I see your patience with me, your willingness to give me chances I didn't deserve, your strength in protecting your marriage and teaching me how to be better. You didn't just marry my son, you saved our family. Thank you. I read it twice, tears streaming down my face. Thank you, I managed to say. No, Diane says firmly. Thank you. That night, lying in bed, I tell Theo about the card. He reads it slowly, then sets it on his nightstand. She means it, he says. I know. This is what winning looks like. What do you mean? Winning doesn't mean they grovel forever. It doesn't mean we hold it over their heads. Winning means they change. They do better. And we get to have a family that's actually healthy. He turns to face me. We won. We did. Was it worth it? All the pain in the court and the months of no contact? I think about this carefully. About that dinner with the guidelines. About the screaming phone calls on our honeymoon. About the restraining order and the therapy and the slow, painful rebuilding. Yes, I say finally. It was worth it. Because the alternative was a lifetime of being treated like I didn't matter. Of watching Theo get torn apart between his wife and his mother. Of teaching our kids that love means accepting disrespect. This way, we have a family. Imperfect, complicated, but real. Built on respect instead of obligation. That's worth everything we went through. 5 years after that family dinner, I get a text from Diane. Can I ask you for advice? Of course. Nora's daughter-in-law is having problems with her. Nora's doing some of the same things I did. The excluding, the controlling. Her son is miserable. What should I tell her? I think about this for a long time. Finally, I type. Tell her what you learned. That love isn't control. That being a mother doesn't mean owning your children. That if she doesn't change, she'll lose them. And that losing them temporarily to gain them back healthily is better than keeping them in a toxic pattern. Will she listen? Probably not. People rarely do until they hit rock bottom. Can I show her your response? Yes. A few days later, Nora calls me. Diane showed me what you said about losing your kids temporarily to gain them back healthily. Did that really work? Yes. Diane seems different now, happier, even though she has less control, because she has real relationships instead of forced compliance. I don't want to lose my son, Nora says quietly. Then stop trying to control his wife, but she's taking him away from me. Is she? Or is he growing up and you're interpreting his independence as abandonment? Silence. Then, how do I fix it? Therapy. Real therapy, not just a couple sessions to say you tried. And boundaries. Let them set them. Respect them. Prove you can change. What if it's too late? Then it's too late. But trying is better than losing him forever. I hang up not knowing if she'll actually do anything. Some people can't change. Some people would rather be right than happy. But at least I tried. Theo, overhearing the conversation, says, You're good at this. At what? Giving advice. Being honest. You should write a book or something. About what? How to deal with nightmare in-laws? About how to set boundaries and build healthy families? About what it costs and why it's worth it? I laugh. Who'd read that? More people than you think. Maybe he's right. Maybe our story isn't just about us. Maybe it's about everyone who's ever felt like they had to choose between their spouse and their family. Everyone who's been told they're overreacting when they're actually underreacting. Everyone who needs permission to walk away from people who claim to love them, but treat them terribly. But for now, I'm content just living it. Showing our kids what healthy boundaries look like. Teaching them that family is about respect, not control. That love means wanting what's best for someone, even if it's not what's best for you. That's a lesson Diane learned the hard way. A lesson we all learned together. And it's one I'll spend the rest of my life making sure our kids understand. Because that's what this was all about. Not revenge, not punishment, not even justice, really. It was about building something better, something that would last, something we could be proud of. And we did it, together. Despite everything trying to tear us apart, we built something stronger than what came before. That's the real happy ending. Not perfect, but real. Not easy, but worth it. Not what we expected, but what we needed. And honestly, I wouldn't change a thing. Well, maybe I'd skip the guidelines. Those were ridiculous. But everything else, every painful moment that led us here, worth it. All of it.